Hey everybody, it's Greg here again. So I picked up this dryer, found it online, and picked it up this morning, and the customer actually couldn't tell me what was wrong. They just said it didn't work. So what I'm going to do is go through how I do diagnostics, and we'll figure out what's wrong and we'll replace it, and eventually I'll probably just sell this dryer online and make some money off of it. So let's get right into it. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to check with a dryer, and I don't necessarily need to do it here, but I'll show you guys how I do it in somebody's house, or if your dryer's having issues, this is the first thing you should be checking. So I've got my meter, I've got it set to voltage, and I have it on AC volts, because I just want to check the power that's coming out of this wall first, and make sure that I'm getting my 240 volts like I should be. You guys should be able to, I'll move that a little closer. All right, so how I do it is I plug it in and plug it in so it's it's in a ways, but it's not completely in as far as it goes. And then, and be careful when you're doing this. It is, live wires and stuff. We don't want to get electrocuted or anything. So keep your fingers out of there. So I put my one lead on one side, the other lead on the other side, and we're getting 243 volts. That's what we want to be seeing, 240. So that's good. Now I can check the neutral too and just put it on the bottom post here. So we should have 120 there, and then we'll check the other side to the bottom, and we got 120 there. So we know that the dryer is getting the exact power that it needs to be getting to work. Okay, so because most problems on a dryer are heating issues, we're going to want to make sure it actually runs, but we'll check to see if it's heating. So you want to put it on time dry. Time dry uses high heat. It doesn't matter. It even says it actually under this time dry, but it uses high heat and it won't cycle off. So if it has a sensor that reads like a moisture sensor in these things, this one doesn't have one, but it reads moisture. If you have nothing inside the dryer, it doesn't read any moisture and it shuts off on you. So put it on time dry, it'll stay on for that set amount of time. So we'll start it up, make sure it actually starts, and because I'm going to want to check for heat at the same time, what I'm going to do is there's a little door switch right here, and every dryer is a little bit different. Some have a little white push-in switch. This guy's just a little black thing hanging down here, but you push in on this, you should hear that click. That's how you know the door switch is actually working. So if you hold this in and start the dryer will run, and you'll be able to feel the heat in there. You don't necessarily have to do this. I just like to do this because I can watch a lot of other things, like how the drum actually turns, whether it's jumping at all. Yeah, there's a lot of things I look at when I'm doing this, but we'll show you here. So start it up. So you can put your hand inside the dryer like that. Just watch the little baffles that are spinning around, because you don't want one of them hitting you. Probably wouldn't feel nice. So sometimes it takes a little bit for a heater to actually kick in. So let it run for a minute, and then you'll be able to tell whether it's actually heating or not. Okay, so by now, watching the drum, and it's got a little bit of a bounce to it, but these things are never perfect. The shaft that the rollers ride on should hold it perfectly still, but they never do. And the shaft that the rollers actually ride on, the roller can move back and forth a little bit, so you'll see while the drum is turning, it's kind of doing this in and out, and that's a normal thing. Okay, so it should have been heating by now. So we got no heat. We got 240 volts, we've already checked that. No heat. It runs, so we know it's not like a broken belt or anything like that, or else it wouldn't actually turn. You might hear a motor running possibly, but the drum doesn't actually turn when the belt's broken. So we got no heat. So at least we know what we're looking at now, and we'll go after a non-heating dryer. I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so now that we know it's not heating, first things first, anytime you're going to be opening up a machine, unplug it. I've already done that, but you don't need it to be live at all anymore. So in one of my older videos, I talked about this, but you see how the lint filter is on the top? Oh man. Well, that doesn't help for the heating issue. People, you have to be emptying out that lint filter all the time. The heat and everything, air movement has to go through this blanket, and that's pretty thick. It has to go through there. So the more you restrict it, the more the element's going to try to heat, because it's trying to actually dry the clothes. So the more it's going to heat, and what you end up doing is burning out elements and burning out thermostats. So this is any indication what the rest of it is going to look like. It's going to be a little ugly in there. So because this lint filter is on top, we know that everything to do with heating and the blower wheel and stuff like that is all located on the back. If your lint filter is actually inside the door, and it's kind of 50-50 on which it is, but if it's inside the door, then all of the heating element and thermostats and everything are all inside the machine. So you have to actually go in through the front. But since this is on the top, we get to go in through the back, which is just a panel that we got to take off. So I'll spin this around and we'll get that panel off. Okay, so we're at the back here. There's, I believe, 9 screws holding this panel on, and we take those off, and everything that we want to get to for a heating issue will be inside this panel. So I will go ahead and do that. All right, now that we have those off, lift the cord up, because you don't want it snagging on here. These panels can be pretty sharp. We don't want it cutting the wire or something like that. And also watch down here, it has to come off from around that vent. So you just kind of let it fall a little bit. You got to lift up just a hair. And it comes out. Okay, so yeah, there's a bunch of lint in here. I hate seeing that. It's such a fire hazard, because your heater is right here. So having all this lint there is just providing a huge ball of flammable material. Okay, so a lot of the times on these guys, it's not usually the heater, but when you get it to this point, and I'll get you guys a little closer here. Okay, so I guess before I get too far, I should probably mention too that there is possibilities that something has happened in the timer, which is up in the console there, and it's not providing power to any of this stuff. There could be a broken wire somewhere, but 99% of the time it's in one of these parts back here. So I just go back here and check things out, I guess. One thing I kind of noticed right here, I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Actually, I'll get in a little closer so you can see that. Okay, so this is one of the connectors for the heater. See how it's burnt up like that? That kind of tips you off a little bit as to where you should be looking first. I know a lot of the time this thermostat here, which is it's more or less a safety is what it is, but it can blow, and the dryer will still do everything it's supposed to do. It just won't heat. But when you see things like this, I'm going here first because it's likely there's an issue right here, so we'll check that. All right, so in order to check this, I'm gonna have to use my meter, but I'll have to take this lead off of here. I always just use a little flat blade screwdriver or a little pick to get those off. It makes it a little bit easier. While I'm in here, and I don't know, maybe I'm just a little too anal about getting all the lint and fuzz and everything out of here, but I always go through and pick out that stuff while I'm in anybody's dryer. Okay, so you guys can see that. All right, so I have to move that guy out of there. So we'll put one lead on the other side of the element and one lead on this side. And make sure that you have a good connection because there can be all sorts of buildup and things on there. I'm getting nothing here. So what I'm going to do is actually take this connector off of here. This is also part of that same connector, just in case that connector, I didn't have a great connection on it or something like that, but yeah, I'm still getting nothing there. So in this case, we know that the issue is the actual heater. It is blown. But while we're in here, heaters can blow. More than likely it was a buildup inside the vent. Stuff that was in the vent there, it has to have passed through quite a bit of it, but nobody's system is designed for that much stuff, especially if you're not cleaning it out. So you're gonna have a lot of issues. So I'm gonna pop this heater off of here, and I'll show you how to check all these other pieces too. So I'm gonna take all the connections off of there. I'll move you guys back just a little bit. All right, so there's two, I know they're kind of covered in lint, but there's a screw right here and a screw right here on the other side that are just 1/4 inch. So we can take those off and the heater will just come down. So this is all one assembly, this is all one piece together. So you just lift, I guess, back like this, and while pulling down just a little bit, and that slides out just like that. So I always like to look and see if I can tell where the actual heater blew. Oh, and it's right there. So this is essentially a continuous wire is all it is. So this piece has busted off, and that there's no way that's going to heat at all if that's not connected. So yeah, we definitely need a heater for this guy, but let's check all the other connections too, or all the other thermostats. And so I'll take off one of these connectors off this. It's also referred to as a thermal fuse, but so put our lead on one side, lead on the other side, and we want to see 0 or close to 0. And that's about as close as it can possibly get. So we know that this guy is good. So we can put the connector back on there. If you find that, you know, one of these thermostats actually tests good, but the little connectors here have, well, they could have anything. It could have calcium, it could have rust, it could have all kinds of stuff on there. You can clean them up a little bit just using like emery cloth or something. Clean that connector up, because the better of a connection it has on there, the less resistance it's going to have, and the better the system will actually run like it's designed to. Okay, so this other guy, let's take the connector off the bottom here. So there's, you can check from here to here, and we should be at 0, which is great. Now, the other 2 wires, these purple wires, this is actually a heater. So this will tell this thermostat when it should be coming on and going off. And so there's not really a way to test that. I'll show you actually. Okay, so this has got 7K ohms, so 7,000 ohms. Now, knowing what that amount should be is kind of have to battle with these guys. Sometimes you can get a wiring diagram or something. Actually, usually in these guys in particular, it's in the console usually. But on that wiring diagram, sometimes it'll tell you how much resistance certain thermostats and stuff should be at. So you can always look for that and know that whether that amount is correct or not. On these, I know it is because I've tested hundreds of these things, but every dryer is a little different, and every manufacturer is a little different. So you can always check, yeah, just to see if you're in the ballpark. Okay, so we have another thermostat up here on the heater housing. So I can check that, and maybe I'll move this up a little bit so you guys can see it. Sit somewhere. Oh, yeah, I kind of figured. You guys can't see that. I like to show people what you should be expecting to see, because you can have a meter, but if you don't know what the readings should actually be, the meter doesn't really help that much. So put our leads on this guy and we should get 0. So that's exactly what we're getting. So we know he's okay. So that's pretty much it for the diagnostic end of things. We know that the heater's shot, so I'll have to get a heater for it and throw it in. But there's other things that I kind of want to look at just because of how much lint and stuff was up in the top there. I want to check. This is a continuation from that vent. So I want to check inside of here just to see what's going on. There's 4 screws on the back here, and then we have to undo 2 that are inside where I took that lint filter out. So I will take these off, I guess. Okay, so we're back at the front here, and I don't know if I said it before or not, but this is an Inglis dryer. So I'll take, oh man, it just keeps coming. Take that guy out, and then there'll be 2 screws right up front here. That can be a little stuck. Okay, so once we undo that, this is the chute that we were looking at from behind. This is where it starts. So we'll go into the back again and take that out. All right, so basically the movement of air in these dryers is the heat. Well, the heater does its heating. The air rises up and goes in to the back of or into the drum through this duct here. Once it's in the drum, it goes through the close and then comes out through the filter, which gets pushed through this blower that's inside of here that you'll see in a sec. Yeah, through the filter and then out through the vent here and then out through your wall and to the outside of your house. So to take this guy off, just need to pull it back. It should come out fairly easy, but it's got a heck of a curve on the top, so you gotta kind of bend it a little funny there. But when you take this off, check right here. I don't know what the heck these guys were drying in here, but it's everywhere. So usually I'll run a vacuum all through this stuff and get it all out. But look down in that bottom there. So the reason why the element would have blown is the amount of restriction to the heat. It would have kept trying to heat because the thermostats are saying, you know, they're not happy because they're not getting warm enough. So the heater puts out more and you end up blowing either the thermostat or the heaters. So yeah, that amount of stuff in such a small little area, that's one of the biggest reasons why this thing had issues. I would take a vacuum and clean out all this stuff that's in here. But this is a blower wheel. Sometimes if you hear a real loud banging kind of sound from your dryer, something can be stuck in this housing. This housing is fairly small and the fins are bent in such a way that they don't carry things out to the rest of the system. They'll push air fine, but you get a quarter or something stuck in here. This wheel will pick it up and throw it against the side of this tin housing, and it'll do that really quickly. This thing's spinning like crazy, so it'll sound kind of something like that, but you know where to at least go to look for it. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. So maybe I'll do a part 2 to this video. I'll get that heater and I'll clean up all this stuff and get all that dealt with, and then just show you how our diagnostic turned out. So anyway, yeah, like I said, thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.